Captain Jack Shepard watched the holographic display with growing unease. The refugee convoy, 12 ramshackle ships cobbled together from outdated hulls and salvaged parts, limped through the asteroid field at the edge of the demilitarized zone. Their engines flickered weakly against the vastness of space, like dying fireflies in an endless night. "How many souls aboard those vessels, Lieutenant?" Shepard asked, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the tactical display. Lieutenant Davis consulted her datapad. "Approximately 8,000, sir. Mostly Nelvarians. Their homeworld was strip-mined 3 cycles ago by the Karvosh Imperium. They've been nomadic ever since." Shepard nodded grimly. Humanity had only been part of the Galactic Concord for 27 years, a political eye blink. They were the newcomers, the primitives, barely trusted with interstellar travel rights. The UES Defiant, despite being the pride of Earth's small defensive fleet, was considered little more than a curiosity by the established powers, a quaint attempt at relevance by an insignificant species. "Sir," Communications Officer Wilson interrupted, "incoming transmission from Concord Central. Admiral Tegan wants to speak with you." "Priority channel." Shepard straightened his uniform. "Put her through." The stern face of Admiral Tegan appeared on the main screen. Her grey hair was pulled back in a severe bun, her expression carefully neutral. "Captain Shepard, you are to maintain your current position and observe only. Do not, I repeat, do not engage with either the refugee convoy or any Karvosh vessels that may enter the sector." Shepard frowned. "Admiral, our intelligence suggests the Karvosh have dispatched a hunter-killer group to intercept those refugees. They're defenseless." "I'm well aware, Captain." Tegan's voice carried the weight of politics, a burden Shepard had never envied. "The diplomatic corps is negotiating with the Imperium as we speak. The Karvosh are a founding member of the Concord. They have certain jurisdictional rights." "Rights to slaughter civilians?" Shepard couldn't keep the edge from his voice. Tegan's eyes flashed with warning. "The official position of Earth and the United Systems is non-interference. We cannot afford to antagonize the Imperium. Not now, not when our position in the Concord is so tenuous." She leaned closer to the screen. "That's an order, Captain. Observe and report only. Tegan out." The screen went dark, leaving Shepard staring at his own reflection. "Orders, sir?" Executive Officer Reeves asked quietly, before Shepard could answer. Tactical Officer Park's voice cut through the silence. "Captain, multiple warp signatures detected. Configuration matches Karvosh Imperial purifiers." The holographic display shifted, showing 3 massive warships slicing through space toward the refugee convoy. Each Karvosh vessel dwarfed the Defiant by at least 5 times. Their hulls were black, absorbing rather than reflecting the distant starlight, bristling with weapon arrays that glowed an ominous crimson. "Time to intercept with the refugee convoy?" Shepard asked. 7 minutes, sir," Park replied. "They're powering weapons." Shepard stood, hands clasped behind his back, and walked slowly around the tactical display. The Defiant was a frigate fast and well armed for its size, but no match for even 1 Karvosh purifier, let alone 3. The smart move, the ordered move, was to stay put and document the coming massacre. "Sir?" Reeves prompted. Shepard looked around the bridge. His crew watched him, waiting. They were the best Earth had to offer. Innocent soldiers who had trained all their lives for the chance to represent humanity among the stars. "Lieutenant Davis, how long would those refugees survive a direct assault from Karvosh weapons?" Shepard asked. Davis swallowed hard. "The first volley would likely destroy half their ships, sir. They have no military-grade shields. It would be quick, at least. And if we placed the Defiant between the purifiers and the convoy?" A heavy silence fell over the bridge. "Our shields would hold against their initial barrage," Park said finally. "Maybe 2 minutes at full power. After that..." Shepard nodded. "XO Reeves, plot an intercept course. Maximum burn. Lieutenant Wilson, prepare to broadcast on all frequencies, including the Concord emergency channel." "Sir?" Reeves hesitated. Admiral Tegan's orders were explicit. "So is my conscience, XO." Shepard turned to face his second-in-command. "Sometimes being human means knowing when to disobey." Reeves held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded. "Aye, Captain. Intercept course plotted. We'll reach the convoy 2 minutes before the Karvosh. All hands to battle stations. Shepard ordered, returning to his chair. "Shields at maximum. Divert power from non-essential systems." Klaxons blared as the crew rushed to their positions. The Defiant's engines roared to life, pushing the ship to its structural limits as it raced toward the doomed convoy. "Open a channel to the lead refugee vessel," Shepard commanded. A moment later, the frightened face of a Nelvarian captain appeared on screen. The alien's translucent skin pulsed with stress chromatophores, and its 4 eyes darted nervously. "This is Captain Jack Shepard of the U.S. Defiant. We've detected Karvosh warships on an intercept course with your convoy. Alter your heading to these coordinates." Shepard nodded to Wilson, who transmitted the navigation data. "Stay in tight formation behind us." "Human vessel?" The Nelvarian's translator unit converted its musical language to standard galactic. "The Karvosh will destroy you for interfering. Why would you risk this?" Shepard's jaw tightened. "Because it's the right thing to do. Now move your people. We've got less than 2 minutes." The Nelvarian captain stared at Shepard for a moment longer, all 4 eyes blinking in astonishment, before the screen went dark. "They're complying, sir," Park reported. "Altering course to fall in behind us." "Good." Shepard activated the ship-wide comm. "All hands, this is the captain. In approximately 90 seconds, we will place ourselves between a refugee convoy and 3 Karvosh purifiers. We are outgunned and operating against direct orders from Concord Command." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "What we do here may be considered an act of war by the Imperium, but what we fail to do here would be an act of cowardice unworthy of the uniform we wear and the planet we represent. Stand ready." The Defiant sliced through space, its hull vibrating with the strain of prolonged maximum acceleration. On the tactical display, the refugee ships struggled to keep pace, their ancient engines pushing beyond safe parameters. "Sir?" Wilson called out. "Incoming transmission from the lead Karvosh vessel." "On screen," Shepard ordered. The image that appeared was not what most of the bridge crew expected. Karvosh were insectoid in appearance, with chitinous exoskeletons and compound eyes that refracted light in unsettling patterns. But it was the calm, almost bored expression on the Imperium commander's face that chilled Shepard's blood. "Unidentified human vessel," the Karvosh spoke without using a translator, its mandibles clicking in flawless galactic standard. "You are interfering with an Imperial cleansing operation. The vermin you protect are criminals against the Imperium. Remove yourself or be destroyed." Shepard stood, meeting the alien's compound gaze. "This is Captain Jack Shepard of the United Earth ship Defiant. The people you're pursuing are unarmed refugees seeking asylum. Under Article 7 of the Galactic Concord Charter, the persecution of displaced persons constitutes a war crime." The Karvosh commander's mandibles twitched in what might have been amusement. "You cite laws to me, human. Your species was climbing trees when my ancestors wrote those laws." It leaned closer to the screen. "The Concord exists by our permission. The lesser races exist by our tolerance. You have 30 seconds to withdraw." The transmission cut off. 20 seconds to intercept with the convoy, sir," Park reported. "Karvosh weapons are hot. They're targeting the lead refugee vessel." Shepard took a deep breath. "Position us between the purifiers and the convoy. Shields at maximum forward arc. Tactical, target their weapon arrays but hold fire unless fired upon." "Aye, sir," came the chorus of responses. The Defiant surged forward, its sleek hull gleaming as it moved into position. On the tactical display, the massive Karvosh warships loomed ever closer, their weapon ports glowing with building energy. "Sir," Wilson's voice was tight with tension. "Admiral Tegan is hailing us again." "Not now, Lieutenant." Shepard's eyes never left the tactical display, broadcast on all Concord frequencies. "This is Captain Jack Shepard of the U.S. Defiant to all vessels in range. We are witnessing an illegal act of aggression against unarmed refugees by Karvosh Imperial forces. We have positioned ourselves to protect these civilians and request immediate assistance from any Concord peacekeeping vessels in the sector." "No response from any Concord vessels, sir," Wilson reported, the disappointment clear in her voice. "Didn't expect one," Shepard muttered. Then louder, "Hold position. Brace for impact." The space between the vessels seemed to compress as the Defiant faced down the approaching purifiers, David against 3 Goliaths. "Sir," Park said quietly, "they're charging their main cannons." Shepard nodded. Target their primary weapon arrays. Ready countermeasures. The refugees are almost clear, Captain, Reeves reported. Another 3 minutes, and they'll reach the jump point. We just need to buy them those 3 minutes, XO. Shepard's knuckles whitened as he gripped the arms of his chair. Whatever it takes. The lead purifier fired. A lance of blinding crimson energy sliced through space toward the Defiant. The frigate's shields flared blue as they absorbed the tremendous impact. The entire ship shuddered, lights flickering as power systems strained. "Shields down to 60%, Park shouted over the blare of warning klaxons. "Second purifier targeting. Return fire," Shepard ordered. "All batteries." The Defiant's weapons blazed, blue-white energy beams stabbing out at the massive curvish vessels. The shots connected, but seemed to do little more than scorch the gleaming black hulls of the enemy ships. Another crimson beam struck the Defiant, followed by a third. The ship lurched violently, throwing crew members against their stations. "Shields critical? Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7? Park's voice was nearly drowned out by the scream of emergency systems. "Emergency bulkheads engaged." "How long until the refugees reach the jump point?" Shepard demanded, wiping blood from a cut above his eye. 2 minutes, 12 seconds, Reeves answered, helping a fallen crewman back to her station. "Sir," Wilson's voice cut through the chaos. "Emergency transmission from Earth Command." Shepard looked up in surprise. "Put it through." The holographic display flickered, then stabilized to show the stern face of Fleet Admiral Harrington. Behind him stood representatives from every major nation on Earth. "Captain Shepard," Harrington said, his voice firm despite the static. "We've received your transmission and reviewed the situation. Your actions, while in violation of direct orders, have been deemed necessary." He straightened, something like pride glinting in his eyes. "The United Systems of Earth officially recognize the Nelvarian refugees under our protection. All available UES vessels have been dispatched to your position." Shepard stared in disbelief. "Sir, the closest reinforcements are at least 6 hours away." "I'm aware, Captain." Harrington's expression hardened. "Which is why I'm authorized to inform you that as of this moment, Earth has activated the Prometheus Protocol." Shepard's blood ran cold. "The Prometheus Protocol? But sir, that's the only card we have left to play." Harrington cut him off. "Hold your position, Captain. Help is closer than you think." The transmission ended just as another blast rocked the ship. "What's the Prometheus Protocol?" Davis asked, voice shaking. Before Shepard could answer, Tactical Officer Park gasped. "Sir, new signatures appearing all around us. They're decloaking." The tactical display suddenly blossomed with dozens, no, hundreds, of new contacts, materializing from seemingly empty space in a perfect sphere around the Defiant and the 3 Carvosh purifiers. "Impossible," Reeves whispered. "Those are Earth ships, but we don't have cloaking technology, and we certainly don't have that many vessels." Yet the evidence was undeniable. The ships now surrounding them were unmistakably of human design, but unlike anything in the official UES fleet, their hulls were midnight black, absorbing light just as the Carvosh vessels did. They moved with impossible precision, their formation never wavering. "Sir," Wilson's voice was hushed with awe, "we're being hailed by the lead vessel. They identify as UES Shadow of Terror." "I've never heard of that ship," Davis said. "None of us have," Shepard replied grimly. "Put them through." The face that appeared on screen was human, but the cold, calculating eyes betrayed something else, something that sent a chill down Shepard's spine. "Captain Shepard," the figure said, voice modulated to an inhuman bass. "Prometheus Protocol is now active. Please move your vessel clear of the engagement zone." "Who are you?" Shepard demanded. "What is the Prometheus Protocol?" The figure's lips curved in what might have been a smile. "We are humanity's insurance policy, Captain. The reason we were allowed to join the Concorde despite our primitive status." The figure glanced at something off-screen. "Now please clear the engagement zone. We would prefer not to add friendly casualties to today's tally." As the transmission ended, Shepard turned to his XO. "Get us out of here. Fall back to the refugee convoy." "Aye, sir." Reeves didn't question the order. As the Defiant limped away, its damaged engines struggling to maintain thrust, the tactical display showed the mysterious Earth vessels closing in on the Carvosh purifiers. There was no communication, no ultimatum, just cold, methodical precision. Then the newcomers opened fire. What followed wasn't a battle, it was an execution. The Karvash vessels, mighty enough to strike fear into the hearts of entire star systems, were torn apart by weapons beyond anything Shepard had ever seen. Beams of energy that seemed to ignore shields entirely, missiles that phased through solid matter before detonating. Space itself warped around the points of impact. Within 30 seconds, all 3 purifiers were reduced to expanding clouds of debris. "My God," someone whispered on the bridge. The tactical display updated as the mysterious fleet regrouped, then vanished back into whatever cloaking technology had hidden them before. All except one. The shadow of terror approached the Defiant, dwarfing the frigate with its obsidian bulk. "Captain," Wilson said shakily, "they're hailing us again." On screen, the same figure appeared, but this time Shepard noticed subtle inconsistencies in its features, as if the face were a mask rather than flesh and blood. "The refugees are now under our escort, Captain Shepard," the figure said. "We will ensure they reach safety." It paused, head tilting slightly. "You should prepare yourself. What happened here today will not go unanswered by the Imperium. Earth has revealed a fraction of what it has kept hidden. The game has changed." "This isn't a game," Shepard replied harshly. "Those were lives at stake." "Indeed," the figure's expression didn't change. "Which is why the Karvash needed to learn a lesson that the rest of the Concord understood long ago. Humans might look weak, but appearances can be deceiving." The transmission ended, and the shadow of terror disappeared into the void, leaving the battered Defiant alone with questions that seemed more terrifying than the battle they had just witnessed. Back on Earth, emergency sessions of the United Systems Security Council convened as diplomatic channels exploded with demands for explanation. The secret was out. Humanity had never been as defenseless as they pretended to be, and the galaxy would never be the same. The United Systems Security Council chamber hadn't been this crowded since Earth joined the Galactic Concord 27 years ago. Representatives from every nation stood shoulder to shoulder along the curved walls, their faces illuminated by the harsh light of emergency beacons. At the center of the chamber, Fleet Admiral Harrington faced the assembled leaders, his weathered face a mask of grim determination. "The Karvash Imperium has formally declared a state of war against the United Systems of Earth," Harrington announced, his deep voice echoing through the suddenly silent room. Their ambassador to the Concord delivered the declaration 3 hours ago, immediately before departing for Karvash space. President Walker of the North American Alliance stepped forward, her expression severe. And the Concord's response? "Officially, they've called for an emergency session of the Galactic Assembly." Harrington's laugh was bitter. "Unofficially, they're scrambling. No one expected us to have the capability to destroy 3 Purifier-class warships." "No one was supposed to know," Defense Minister Takahashi interjected. "The Prometheus Protocol was our insurance policy, meant to be revealed only in the direst circumstances. Protecting 8,000 innocent refugees from slaughter qualifies as dire in my book," Secretary of State Okafor countered. "Captain Shepard made the right call." "The right call?" European Federation Chancellor Volkov slammed his fist on the council table. "He violated direct orders and triggered a war with one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, a civilization with over 10,000 years of technological advancement over us." The chamber erupted into heated debate. Some demanded Shepard's court-martial. Others called him a hero. President Walker let the arguments rage for nearly a minute before raising her hand for silence. "What's done is done," she said firmly. "The question now is how we respond." All eyes turned to the massive holographic display dominating the center of the chamber. It showed the positions of every known Karvash fleet, along with projected invasion vectors toward Earth space. The red arrows converging on humanity's homeworld told a sobering story. "The Karvash have mobilized 11 battle groups," Harrington explained, "each one capable of glassing an entire continent. They'll be within strike range of our outer colonies within 72 hours. "And our options?" President Walker asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. Harrington manipulated the display, revealing a second tactical overlay. Hundreds of stealth signatures, the previously hidden ships of Earth's secret fleet, appeared throughout the projection. "The Prometheus Protocol was designed for exactly this scenario," he said. "We reveal our full military capability and strike first, hard and fast." "Those ships," Minister Takahashi whispered, "they're not just advanced, They're beyond anything we officially acknowledge having. The Concord will demand to know how we developed such technology. Let them demand, Okafor replied. After we save our colonies. President Walker studied the display for a long moment. How many civilians are in potential combat zones? Nearly 60 million across 17 colonies, Harrington answered quietly. Walker closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, her decision was made. Initiate full deployment of the Prometheus fleet, she ordered. Priority 1 is evacuation of civilian populations. Priority 2 is defense of colonial infrastructure. She turned to face the council. And get me a direct line to Captain Shepard. I want the hero of the hour to understand exactly what's coming. Light years away, on the battered bridge of the UES Defiant, Captain Jack Shepard examined the damage reports with growing concern. The ship's primary reactor was operating at 38% capacity. Life support was stable but limited to essential areas. The weapons systems were functional but depleted. And yet, 17 Nelvarian refugee ships, 5 more than they had started with, having found additional survivors hiding in the asteroid field, now followed in their wake, their passengers alive because of the choice he had made. Status of the Shadow of Terror? Shepard asked, glancing at the tactical display. Still escorting on our starboard flank, sir, Lieutenant Park reported. They've maintained a constant distance of 50 kilometers. No further communication since their last transmission. Shepard nodded. The mysterious ship, and the fleet it commanded, represented an aspect of humanity he hadn't known existed. Part of him was grateful for their intervention. Another part was deeply disturbed by the implication. Captain, Communications Officer Wilson called out, priority transmission from Earth. It's President Walker herself, sir. Shepard straightened his uniform as best he could. On screen, the main display flickered before resolving into the image of Catherine Walker, President of the North American Alliance and current Chair of the United Systems Security Council. Her silver-streaked hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and the lines around her eyes seemed deeper than in her public appearances. Captain Shepard, she said, her voice carrying that peculiar delay of faster-than-light communication. I understand congratulations and court-martial charges may be simultaneously in order. Shepard stood at attention. I accept full responsibility for my actions, Madam President. As well you should. Walker's expression softened slightly. The Carvosh have declared war, Captain. Their fleets are moving toward our colonies as we speak. The bridge crew exchanged alarmed glances. Shepard's stomach tightened. Because of what I did, he said quietly. Because of what we all did, Walker corrected. Your actions forced our hand regarding the Prometheus protocol, but that decision was made in this chamber, not on your bridge. She leaned closer to the camera. The Carvosh would have found a reason eventually. They've been looking for one since we joined the Concord. Our orders, Madam President. The Defiant is to rendezvous with Battle Group Omega at the coordinates being transmitted to you now. You'll be taking on medical supplies and personnel to assist the refugees. Walker's expression hardened. And Captain Shepard? You're being given field promotion to Commodore. Battle Group Omega will operate under your command. Shepard blinked in surprise. Madam President, I'm not qualified for fleet command. No one is qualified for what's coming, Commodore, Walker replied. But you've demonstrated the one quality we need most right now, the willingness to do what's right, regardless of the political consequences. After the transmission ended, Shepard stood motionless for several seconds, absorbing the weight of his new responsibility. Congratulations, sir, Executive Officer Reeves said quietly. Save the congratulations for when we've survived this, XO. Shepard turned to face his bridge crew. Set course for the rendezvous coordinates. Maximum sustainable speed. Aye, sir, Reeves acknowledged. What about our shadow? He nodded toward the tactical display where the Shadow of Terror continued its silent escort. They already know where we're going, Shepard said grimly. Probably knew before we did. The Carvosh High Command vessel, inevitable dominance, hung in orbit above the conquered world of Tertius III, its imposing silhouette blocking the light of the system's primary star. Within its command center, Grand Admiral Vextrel reviewed the intelligence reports with mounting rage. Impossible, he chittered, his compound eyes flashing with iridescent fury. The humans have maintained the pretense of technological inferiority since their discovery. Our intelligence networks would have detected this level of advancement. Supreme Tactician Kilsheks bobbed her head in the Karvosh gesture of qualified agreement. The evidence is incontrovertible, Grand Admiral. 3 of our purifiers destroyed. The energy signatures indicate weapons technology at least comparable to our own, possibly superior in some aspects. Superior? Vextral's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among his kind. No lesser species possesses technology superior to the Imperium. And yet, came a new voice, low and resonant, 3 of our finest vessels are now debris fields. The gathered military leaders turned as one toward the newcomer who glided into the command center. Unlike the heavily armored forms of the military caste, this Karavosh wore flowing robes of midnight blue that emphasized the slender, almost delicate structure of the scientific caste. The newcomer's carapace was a pale ivory rather than the metallic black of the warriors. Sovereign researcher Nithtal, Vextral acknowledged, his tone carefully neutral. The High Command did not request your presence. And yet here I am, Nithtal replied smoothly, approaching the holographic display showing the destroyed purifiers. Because this changes everything. It changes nothing, Vextral insisted. The humans have revealed their deception. They will be punished accordingly. Your thinking is admirably straightforward, Grand Admiral, Nithtal said, manipulating the display to show a different set of readings, but short-sighted. Look at these energy patterns. The human vessels aren't just using advanced weapons. They're using quantum displacement technology. A heavy silence fell over the command center. Impossible, Kilsheks whispered eventually. The ancients prohibited such research after the Sundering. The ancients prohibited it for Concord species, Nithtal corrected. The humans weren't part of the Concord when they developed these weapons. They weren't bound by the prohibition. Vextral's compound eyes fixed on the researcher. You seem suspiciously well informed about human military capabilities, Sovereign Researcher. Nithtal's antennae twitched in what might have been amusement. The scientific caste has been monitoring them since first contact. We recognized potential. Potential for what? Vextral demanded. Instead of answering directly, Nithtal accessed the command center's secure data core. The holographic display shifted again, showing a massive structure hidden within the rings of a gas giant deep in Karvosh space. The Ascension Gate, Nithtal said reverently. The culmination of 10,000 years of research, our path to joining the ancients in the higher planes of existence. What does this have to do with the humans? Kilsheks asked, mandibles clicking in confusion. The gate requires a specific form of energy to function, Nithtal explained. An energy we've never been able to generate in sufficient quantities. The researcher manipulated the display once more, overlaying the readings from the human weapons signatures with the gate's specifications. They aligned perfectly. The humans have solved the problem that has stymied our greatest minds for millennia, Nithtal continued. Unknowingly perhaps, but solved it nonetheless. Vextral's posture stiffened as understanding dawned. You want to capture their technology. Study it. Study it? No, Grand Admiral. Nithtal's voice took on a fervent quality. I want to take it. All of it, and the humans themselves. Explain, Vextral demanded. Our preliminary studies indicate that humans possess a unique neurological structure, Nithtal said. Their brains generate quantum entanglement patterns, unlike any species we've encountered. We believe this is how they developed quantum displacement technology so rapidly. The researcher's voice dropped to a near whisper. The Ascension Gate requires not just the technology but living human neural tissue to function properly. Kilsheks recoiled. You propose to harvest sentient beings? I propose to elevate our entire species to godhood, Nithtal replied sharply. The sacrifice of a few million humans is an insignificant price. Vextral studied the researcher for a long moment. The High Command authorized this research? The Imperium Eternal did, Nithtal said, invoking the title of the rarely seen Karvosh Emperor. Your invasion fleets are to capture as many humans alive as possible. Priority is given to their scientists, military personnel, and leadership caste. The command center fell silent again as the military leaders processed this new dimension to their conflict. The invasion proceeds as planned, Vextral finally declared. But with modified objectives as the sovereign researcher has outlined. He turned to his subordinates. Disseminate the new capture protocols to all fleet commanders. As the others moved to comply, Vextral leaned closer to Nithtal. If the humans' weapons are as advanced as you claim, this harvest may prove more costly than you anticipate. Nithatol's antennae quivered slightly. That, Grand Admiral, is why we have you. Battle Group Omega materialized from hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. 27 ships, ranging from frigates like the Defiant to the massive dreadnought Thermopylae, moved into defensive formation around humanity's oldest extrasolar colony. From the command deck of the Thermopylae, newly promoted Commodore Shepard surveyed the tactical display with a growing sense of dread. Intelligence reports indicated that a Karvash invasion fleet 5 times the size of Battle Group Omega would arrive within hours. Status of the evacuation? Shepard asked, turning to Colonel Rivera, the colony's military commander. 60% complete, Rivera reported. We need at least 6 more hours to get everyone off-world. We may not have 6 hours, Admiral Joe, the Thermopylae's commanding officer, interjected. Latest intelligence suggests the Karvash have accelerated their timeline. Shepard studied the colony's layout on the tactical display. Nearly 2 million civilians crowded the evacuation centers. If the Karvash arrived before they could be moved to safety, what if we used the Shadow Fleet to evacuate civilians? Lieutenant Davis suggested. She had transferred from the Defiant along with Shepard and several other key officers. The Prometheus ships aren't designed for mass civilian transport, Joe replied. They're weapons platforms. But they have quantum displacement technology, Shepard said slowly, an idea taking shape. They can appear and disappear almost instantly. What are you suggesting, Commodore? Joe asked. Shepard manipulated the tactical display, highlighting key defensive positions around the colony. We don't need to defeat the Karvash fleet. We just need to confuse them long enough to complete the evacuation. He outlined his plan quickly. A guerrilla operation using the stealth capabilities of the Shadow Fleet to strike from multiple vectors, creating the illusion of a much larger defensive force, while the conventional ships of Battle Group Omega escorted the civilian transports to safety. It's unorthodox, Joe said when Shepard finished. The Karvash expect us to fight conventionally, Shepard argued. Ship against ship, fleet against fleet. That's a battle we can't win. He gestured toward the display. But we don't need to win. We just need to survive long enough to get our people out. And if the Karvash adapt? Rivera asked. They won't, Davis interjected confidently. The Karvash military doctrine hasn't changed in over 1,000 years. They rely on overwhelming force, not tactical flexibility. Joe considered for a long moment, then nodded. Transmit the plan to all ship commanders, and get me a direct line to the Shadow of Terror. If we're doing this, we need their complete cooperation. As the officers dispersed to implement the plan, Shepard found himself alone with the tactical display. The enormity of what they faced, what he had inadvertently started, pressed down on him like a physical weight. Second thoughts, Commodore? A voice asked from behind him. Shepard turned to find Exo Reeves studying him with concern. Not about saving those refugees, Shepard replied firmly, but about everything that's come after. Yeah, a few. Reeves nodded in understanding. You know what my grandfather used to say? The right path isn't always the easy one. Wisdom from a simpler time, Shepard said with a faint smile. Maybe, Reeves acknowledged, but he also used to say, when the shooting starts, stick with the bastards crazy enough to shoot back. He clapped Shepard on the shoulder. The crew believes in you, sir. All of them. Before Shepard could respond, the tactical officer's voice cut through the moment. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. Karvash invasion fleet inbound. The command deck erupted into controlled chaos as officers rushed to their stations. Shepard strode to the central command position, his doubts pushed aside by the immediacy of the threat. All ships to battle stations, he ordered. Civilian transports to begin immediate departure under escort. Shadow Fleet to implement Operation Phantom Strike on my mark. On the tactical display, the first Karvash warships began to materialize, massive, obsidian behemoths bristling with weapon arrays. Their formation was perfect, arranged in the classic Karvash assault pattern documented in military texts for centuries. Predictable, inflexible, exactly as Davis had said. Shadow Fleet, execute Phantom Strike, Shepard commanded. Conventional forces, maintain defensive perimeter around evacuation lanes. Let's show these bugs what happens when they threaten our people. Across the Proxima Centauri system, humanity's secret weapons platforms shimmered into visibility for just moments, long enough to launch devastating strikes against the Karvosh vanguard before disappearing again, only to reappear at different vectors for another attack. The perfect Karvosh formation disintegrated as ship commanders reacted to threats that seemed to materialize from nowhere. For the first time in recorded history, a Karvosh invasion fleet faltered. On the command deck of the Thermopylae, Shepard watched the confusion spread through the enemy formation with grim satisfaction. The plan was working. The Karvosh commanders were breaking off their advance to deal with phantom threats, buying precious time for the evacuation ships to escape. Sir, Davis reported, intercepts from Karvosh communications indicate they believe they're facing a force 3 times our actual size. Good, Shepard replied. Keep the pressure on. Don't let them regroup. For 2 hours, the hit-and-run tactics kept the Karvosh fleet in disarray. Civilian transports streamed away from the colony, protected by the conventional ships of Battle Group Omega, while the Shadow Fleet continued its guerrilla campaign against the invaders. Then the tactical display chimed an urgent alert. New contact, the tactical officer announced. Massive signature. Sir, it's at least twice the size of anything we've seen before. The display resolved to show a colossal Karvosh vessel emerging from hyperspace. Unlike the sleek, predatory lines of the standard purifiers, this ship resembled a floating fortress, angular, bristling with weapons, and surrounded by a swarm of smaller craft. Imperial Dreadnought, Admiral Joe whispered. I've only seen them in historical archives. As they watched, the massive vessel began to emit a strange energy field. Wherever the field touched one of the Shadow Fleet vessels, the stealth ship shimmered into visibility, locked in place, as if caught in amber. They've developed a countermeasure, Joe said grimly. Some kind of quantum disruption field. Shepard's mind raced. Their advantage was evaporating before his eyes. On the display, more Shadow Fleet vessels are being exposed and targeted by converging Karvosh warships. Status of the evacuation? He demanded. 87% complete, Rivera reported. We still have over 200,000 civilians on the surface. Shepard made his decision. All Shadow Fleet vessels fall back to secondary defense positions. Conventional fleet to form up on the Thermopylae. He turned to Joe. Admiral, we need to buy more time. Joe studied him for a moment, then nodded in understanding. You're proposing we engage the Dreadnought directly. A conventional attack. Something they'll expect and respond to, according to their doctrine. Shepard highlighted a specific approach vector on the tactical display. They'll commit significant forces to counter us, drawing attention away from the Shadow Fleet and the remaining evacuation ships. It's a suicide run, Joe said quietly. Not necessarily. Shepard outlined a complex maneuver that would bring the Thermopylae and its escort ships into firing range of the Dreadnought's command section. If we can damage their central control systems, the disruption field might collapse. Joe studied the plan, then looked up at Shepard with new respect. Conventional tactics with an unconventional objective. The Karvosh won't see it coming. That's the idea, Admiral. Shepard took a deep breath. Transmit attack pattern to all escort vessels. Prepare to engage on my mark. The bridge of the Thermopylae hummed with tension as the massive human dreadnought and its escorts adjusted course, accelerating toward the heart of the Karvosh fleet. On the tactical display, the enemy vessels reacted exactly as predicted, redeploying to intercept the apparent frontal assault. They're taking the bait, Davis reported. Karvosh vessels breaking off pursuit of Shadow Fleet ships to intercept our approach. Status of remaining evacuation transports? Shepard asked. Loading final civilians now, Rivera answered. Estimated completion in 28 minutes. We need to give them those 28 minutes, Shepard said grimly. All ships, engage as planned. Focus fire on the Dreadnought's command section. The space between the fleets lit up with energy weapons as both sides opened fire. The Thermopylae shuddered under the impact of multiple hits, but its advanced shields held around it. The escort vessels executed a complex series of maneuvers, drawing enemy fire while maintaining their formation. We're within optimal firing range, the weapons officer announced. All batteries, concentrate fire on target Alpha, Joe ordered. The Thermopylae's main batteries unleashed a devastating barrage against the Karvosh dreadnought. For a moment it seemed as if the massive vessel was impervious to the attack. Then a section of its hull cracked, venting atmosphere and debris into space. Direct hit on their command section, Davis reported triumphantly. Disruption field is fluctuating. On the tactical display, the Shadow Fleet vessels began to disappear from sensors again, their stealth capabilities restored as the Karvosh countermeasure weakened. Last civilian transport is away, Rivera announced. Evacuation complete. Shepard allowed himself a moment of relief before refocusing on the battle. All conventional forces begin withdrawal to Ratty Point Delta. Shadow Fleet to provide covering fire. As the human vessels began their strategic retreat, the Karvosh dreadnought listed to one side, its control systems damaged but not destroyed. Around it, the remainder of the invasion fleet regrouped, preparing to pursue. "They're not giving up," Joe observed. "No," Shepard agreed, "but neither are we." The battle for Proxima Centauri was over. The war had just begun. And somewhere in the depths of Karvosh space, the Ascension Gate awaited a dark promise of godhood for one species through the sacrifice of another. Humanity would not go quiet. All ships, evasive pattern Delta, concentrate fire on Sector 6. Commodore Jack Shepard's commands cut through the chaos as Battle Group Omega executed a desperate defensive maneuver. The view screen on the Thermopylae's command deck showed the terrible beauty of space combat, energy weapons slicing through the void, explosions blooming like silent flowers, debris fields expanding where ships once flew. 3 weeks had passed since the evacuation of Proxima Centauri. 3 weeks of running battles, guerrilla strikes, and mounting casualties. The Karvosh advance had slowed, but not stopped. Already 2 minor colonies had fallen. The reports from those occupied worlds, what few had escaped, spoke of mass abductions rather than the expected extermination. Shadow Fleet elements in position, Lieutenant Davis reported, her voice steady despite the exhaustion etched on her face. "Ready to initiate Phase 2. Execute," Shepard ordered. On the tactical display, the stealthed human vessels materialized briefly around the flanks of the attacking Karvosh fleet. Their coordinated strike crippled 2 enemy cruisers before they vanished again, leaving confusion in their wake. But the advantage was temporary. The Karvosh were adapting, developing new countermeasures against the quantum displacement technology that had initially given humanity its edge. Each engagement became more costly than the last. "Incoming transmission from Earth Command," Communications Officer Wilson announced. "President Walker for you, sir." "Put her through to my ready room," Shepard replied. He turned to Admiral Joe. "Continue the defensive operation. Hold this line at all costs." "Understood, Commodore." In the privacy of his ready room, Shepard took a moment to compose himself before activating the secure channel. When President Walker's face appeared on screen, he was surprised by how much she had aged in just 3 weeks. The strain of leadership in wartime had carved new lines into her face. "Commodore," she greeted him, dispensing with formalities. "I've received your latest assessment. The situation appears challenging." "That's diplomatic phrasing, Madam President," Shepard replied. "We're holding, but barely. The Karvosh are learning our tactics, adapting faster than we anticipated." Walker nodded grimly. "Then it's time we showed them something new." She manipulated something off-screen, and a classified file appeared on Shepard's terminal. "Operation Prometheus Shield is now authorized." Shepard opened the file and scanned its contents, his eyes widening. "This is ambitious." "It's necessary," Walker countered. "Intelligence has confirmed what we suspected. The Karvosh aren't just trying to punish us for defiance. They're taking our people for some specific purpose." She hesitated. "And we've identified where they're being transported." The file contained detailed scans of a massive structure hidden within the rings of a gas giant deep in Karvosh territory. Designated as the Ascension Gate, it appeared to be some kind of colossal energy conduit. "What am I looking at?" Shepard asked. "Our best scientists aren't entirely sure," Walker admitted. "But based on intercepted communications and the analysis of Concord xenoarchaeologists, we believe it's related to the Ancients, the precursor species that established the Galactic Concord millennia ago." Shepard studied the data more closely. "And our people? The abducted colonists?" Walker's expression hardened. "Being processed for neural tissue extraction. Apparently there's something unique about human brain patterns, something the Karvosh need." The implication hung in the air between them. "Not conquest, not punishment. Harvest." "Operation Prometheus Shield," Shepard said carefully, "proposes a multi-species alliance against the Karvosh, but the Concord has made its position clear. They won't intervene. The Concord won't, Walker agreed. But not all species are happy with Karvash dominance. Not all of them trust the Ascension Gate project. She leaned forward. We've been making diplomatic overtures, secret ones, and we've found unexpected allies. The file updated, showing a list of species that had agreed to join humanity's resistance. Names Shepard recognized from briefings, civilizations that had suffered under Karvash expansion throughout the centuries, middle powers and minor species who had never dared to challenge the Imperium openly. They're willing to fight alongside us? Shepard asked, skeptical. Now, after staying silent for so long, they're willing to fight alongside the species that destroyed 3 purifiers and held off an Imperial dreadnought, Walker corrected. Our actions at Proxima Centauri did more than just enrage the Karvash. They inspired others. She outlined the plan. A coordinated strike against the Ascension Gate itself, a desperate gamble to rescue the abducted humans and destroy whatever the Karvash were building before it could be completed. It's a suicide mission, Shepard said finally. Perhaps, Walker acknowledged. But it's also our best chance. The Coalition fleet is gathering at coordinates transmitted separately. You'll rendezvous with them in 48 hours. She paused. There's one more thing, Commodore. Intelligence suggests that the Karvash scientific caste has been concealing aspects of this project from their own military leadership. There may be opportunities to exploit that division. After the transmission ended, Shepard remained at his desk, studying the operation plans. A coalition of species that had never cooperated before, a target deep within enemy territory. Thousands of lives hanging in the balance, and somehow he was expected to make it work. The door chimed, breaking his concentration. Enter. Executive Officer Reeves stepped into the ready room, his expression concerned. Orders, sir. Shepard gestured to the tactical display. How much do you know about the ancients, Exa? Reeves raised an eyebrow at the unexpected question. The precursor species? Only what was in the briefing package when we joined the Concord. They established the galactic community, then either transcended or went extinct about 8,000 years ago. Transcended, Shepard repeated thoughtfully. That's the key word. He activated the holographic display, showing the Ascension Gate. I think the Karvash believe they've found a way to follow them. Understanding dawned on Reeves's face. At our expense. At everyone's expense, Shepard corrected. Set course for these coordinates. Top speed. He transmitted the rendezvous point. And prepare the crew for a joint operation with non-human forces. Reeves blinked in surprise. Sir, it seems we're not as alone in this fight as we thought. Shepard managed a grim smile. Apparently, defying bullies is a universal language. The Coalition fleet was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Ships from 17 different species hung in formation around the human battle group Omega, their designs as varied as their cultures. Sleek Nelvarian cruisers with bioorganic hulls that pulsed with internal light. Massive Dorcalian dreadnoughts, their ancient weathered exteriors belying the advanced technology within. Swarms of tiny Paxtril fighters, individually insignificant but devastating in concert. And at the center, the Thermopylae, now the command vessel for this unprecedented alliance. On the command deck, Commodore Shepard stood before representatives from each species, outlining the final assault plan. Some attended in person, their environmental suits accommodating their unique biologies. Others participated via hologram, their translated voices filling the chamber. The Ascension Gate is protected by 3 defensive rings, Shepard explained, manipulating the tactical display. Conventional military doctrine would suggest a direct assault, attempting to overwhelm their defenses through superior numbers, which we do not possess, observed Matriarch Extale of the Dorcalians, her crystalline voice resonating through her translator. Correct, Shepard acknowledged, which is why we won't be using conventional tactics. He detailed the plan, a strategy that combined each species' unique capabilities into something the Karvash would never anticipate. The Paxtril swarms would create a diversion at the outer defensive ring. The Dorcalians and Nelvarians would target the Karvash battle groups at the second ring, and while the enemy was occupied, a joint strike team composed of humans and specialized units from 5 different species would infiltrate the Ascension Gate itself. The objective is twofold, Shepard continued. Rescue the abducted colonists and destroy the gate's primary power source. He highlighted a specific section of the massive structure. According to our intelligence, both are located here, in the central processing hub. And if we encounter resistance within the structure, asked Commander Vex of the Solari Concordat, his feathered crest rippling with skepticism. We expect significant resistance, Shepard replied honestly. But our diversity will be our strength. The Kerebush designed their security systems to counter specific threats from specific species. They've never faced a mixed species infiltration team. The alien representatives exchanged glances, or their species equivalent of such communication. There's something else you should know, Shepard added, his tone grave. We've discovered that the Karvosh scientific caste may have concealed crucial information about the Ascension Gate's true purpose from their own military leadership. He activated a new holographic display showing intercepted communications. They believe the gate will elevate their species to godhood, joining the ancients in some higher plane of existence. But our xenoarchaeologists have a different interpretation. The holographic display shifted to show ancient warning glyphs found throughout Concord space, symbols that had been largely ignored as religious iconography. These warnings aren't about transcendence, Shepard explained. They're about destruction. We believe the ancients didn't ascend. They attempted something similar to what the Karvash are planning and triggered a catastrophe that nearly destroyed the galaxy. The Ascension Gate isn't going to elevate the Karvash. It's going to unleash something that the ancients themselves feared. A heavy silence fell over the command deck as the implications sank in. You are suggesting, Matriarch Extol said finally, that we are not merely fighting to save human captives or resist Karvash dominance. We are fighting to prevent another cataclysm. Yes, Shepard confirmed. This isn't just humanity's fight anymore. It's everyone's. The alien representatives conferred among themselves, their various communication methods creating a strange symphony of clicks, whistles, and subharmonic vibrations. We stand with humanity, Matriarch Extol declared eventually, the other representatives signaling their agreement in their own ways. Not out of fear, but out of recognition. You stood when no one else would. Now we stand together. As the representatives departed to prepare their forces, Admiral Joe approached Shepard. Quite the coalition you've assembled, she observed. Think it will hold? Long enough, Shepard replied. That's all we need. The Ascension Gate loomed against the backdrop of the gas giant, its interlocking rings slowly rotating around a blindingly bright central core. Surrounding it, the three defensive rings bristled with weapon emplacements and patrol vessels. The Karvosh Imperium's most heavily fortified installation. All forces in position, Davis reported on the Thermopyle's command deck, awaiting your order, Commodore. Shepard took a deep breath, aware that his next command would commit thousands of lives from 17 different species to battle. There would be no turning back. Coalition fleet, commence Operation Prometheus Shield. Across the star system, the unprecedented alliance moved as one. The Pax Trill swarms surged forward, their thousands of tiny ships creating patterns that confused Karvash targeting systems. The larger vessels of the Dorcalians and Melvarians engaged the enemy battle groups with unexpected coordination, their disparate technologies complementing each other in ways the Karvash had never encountered. And through the chaos, a single specialized transport ship carrying the Joint Strike Team slipped toward the Ascension Gate, its advanced stealth systems, a combination of human quantum displacement technology and Solari phase shifting, rendering it nearly invisible. Aboard the transport, Shepard checked his combat gear one final time. Despite his rank, he had insisted on leading the strike team personally. Around him, soldiers from 6 different species made their own preparations, their diverse physiologies requiring unique equipment and weapons. Approaching insertion point, the pilot announced. 30 seconds, Shepard addressed the strike team, his voice firm. We all come from different worlds, different cultures. We never fought together before, but today we share a single purpose, to protect life in all its forms against those who would sacrifice it for power. The transport shuddered as it docked with an emergency maintenance airlock on the outer ring of the Ascension Gate, breaching in 3, 2, 1. The airlock blew open, and the strike team surged into the colossal structure. The interior was a nightmarish blend of advanced technology and biological components, pulsing conduits that resembled veins, walls that seemed to breathe, and everywhere the chittering sounds of Karvash worker drones maintaining the unholy machinery. Life signs detected 1 level down, reported Team Mal, the Solari sensor specialist. Thousands of them. Human biosignatures. Security protocols activated. Warned Ziv, the Paxtril collective consciousness controlling 6 synchronized drone bodies. Countermeasures deploying. The first wave of Karvash security forces converged on the strike team, warrior-cast drones with reinforced carapaces and integrated energy weapons. In the confined space of the gate's corridors, the battle became a chaotic melee of disparate fighting styles and technologies. Shepard fired his particle rifle at an advancing drone, the beam temporarily disrupting its carapace long enough for Greyvuk, the massive Dorkalian warrior, to shatter it with a crystalline hammer. Nearby, the Nelvarian twins Sala and Tren flowed around enemies like living mercury, their fluid bodies impervious to conventional weapons. "We need to split up," Shepard decided as they reached a junction. Team Alpha with me to locate and free the prisoners. Team Beta with Greyvuk to the central core to plant the quantum disruptors. The strike team divided, each group taking a different path deeper into the Ascension Gate. As Shepard led Team Alpha down toward the detention levels, the resistance intensified. More warrior drones appeared, along with specialized hunter units with adaptive shielding. "They're learning our tactics," Shepard warned as another wave of defenders approached. "Keep switching weapons and attack patterns." The battle raged through multiple levels of the structure, the strike team adapting and improvising as they encountered new defenses. Their diversity proved crucial. When one species approach failed, another succeeded. The Karvash security systems designed to counter specific threats couldn't adapt quickly enough to the constantly changing assault. Finally, they reached the central processing hub, a vast chamber filled with thousands of transparent pods, each containing a human captive connected to the gate's systems by neural interfaces. Medical drones moved between the pods, extracting neural tissue from some subjects and replacing them with fresh captives from holding pens nearby. "My God," Shepard whispered, the scale of the atrocity momentarily overwhelming him. "Commodore?" Sella, the Nelvarian scout, urged. "We must act quickly. Security reinforcements approaching." Shepard forced himself to focus. Begin disconnecting the prisoners. Priority to those still conscious. He activated his comm unit. "Team Beta, status." "Core access achieved," Greyvuk's rumbling voice replied through the channel. "Quantum disruptors placed, but we've encountered complications." "Explain." "The core isn't just a power source," the Dorkalian reported. "It's a containment vid. There's something inside it. Something alive." Before Shepard could respond, a new voice cut through the communications channel, cold, precise, and distinctly Karvash. "Of course it's alive, primitive. Did you truly believe the ancients merely disappeared?" Shepard turned to find a slender Karvash in flowing robes, standing at the entrance to the processing hub, flanked by elite guard drones. Unlike the warrior caste, this one's carapace was pale ivory rather than metallic black. "Sovereign researcher Nithtal," I presume Shepard said, recognizing the description from intelligence reports. "You are well informed for a lesser species," Nithtal replied, mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement, "but woefully ignorant of what you interfere with." The scientist gestured toward the glowing core visible through the chamber's transparent ceiling. "The ancients didn't transcend existence. They became existence. What you see contained within that core is but one of them, captured, imprisoned, its power harnessed." "And the human captives?" Shepard demanded. "What role do they play in your sick experiment?" "Fuel," Nithtal stated simply. "The quantum entanglement patterns generated by your species' neural structures are uniquely compatible with ancient energy signatures. You are the key that unlocks godhood." "You mean the key that unlocks destruction?" Shepard countered. "We've translated the warning glyphs. The Ascension Gate doesn't elevate anyone. It tears apart the fabric of space-time itself." For the first time, Nithtal's confidence wavered. "Impossible. Our translations." "We're incomplete," Shepard finished. "Or deliberately falsified to justify your experiments." The chamber shook violently as explosions echoed through the structure. Outside, through the transparent ceiling, they could see the battle raging as the Coalition fleet engaged the Karvosh defenders. The Thermopylae led a squadron of Shadow Fleet vessels in a daring attack, run against the gate's external power conduits, drawing fire from dozens of enemy vessels. "Your interference changes nothing," Nithtal declared. "The process has already begun. The gate will open, with or without additional human neural tissue, as if in response to his words. The core above them pulsed with intensifying energy, tendrils of blindingly bright plasma extending outward like the tentacles of some cosmic creature. Where they touched the gate's structure, reality itself seemed to warp and distort. "Team Beta," Shepard transmitted urgently. "Detonate the quantum disruptors now." "Negative," Greyvac replied, his voice strained. "The core is adapting, absorbing the disruptors. We need something else. Something it can't assimilate." Nithatol chittered in triumph. "Nothing can stop the awakening now. The Ancient will be freed, and the Karvash who control it will remake reality itself." The Shepard studied the scientist carefully. "Control it? You really believe you can control something that destroyed its own civilization?" He shook his head. "You're not going to become gods. You're going to become extinct, along with everyone else." For a crucial moment, doubt flickered in Nithatol's compound eyes. It was all the opening Shepard needed. "All teams, new plan," he transmitted on the Coalition frequency. "Evacuate all prisoners immediately. Get them to the transport ships. Then target these coordinates." He transmitted the precise location of the chamber where they stood, directly beneath the core's containment field. "But sir," Davis responded from the thermopyle, "that would collapse the containment field." "I know," Shepard confirmed. "Apparently that's what the Ancients were trying to warn about. These things can't be controlled or used. They can only be contained." As his team worked frantically to disconnect and evacuate the human prisoners, Shepard kept Nithatal talking, probing for weaknesses in the Karvosh understanding of the ancient entity. "Your own military doesn't fully support this project, do they?" Shepard asked. "That's why you've concealed the true nature of the gate from them." Nithatal's antennae twitched in agitation. "The warrior caste lacks vision. They see only conquest, not transcendence." "Not transcendence," Shepard corrected. "Annihilation. You're being manipulated by the entity in that core. It wants to be released, not to elevate you, but to consume everything." Before Nithatal could respond, a new transmission cut through all communication channels, a message broadcasted on all frequencies in perfect Karvash language. "Attention all Imperium forces. This is Grand Admiral Vextral of the High Command. The Ascension Gate project is hereby terminated by direct order of the Imperium Eternal. All scientific caste personnel are to stand down immediately. The entity is not to be released under any circumstance. Repeat, the entity is not to be released." Nithatal froze, mandibles clicking in distress. "Impossible. The High Command wouldn't dare interfere with the scientific caste's authority. Unless," Shepard suggested, "they've seen the same evidence we have. The same warnings from the Ancients themselves." The chamber shook more violently as the battle outside intensified. The core pulsed faster, its tendrils more numerous and aggressive, reaching further into the structure of the gate. "Sir," Scylla reported, "all surviving prisoners have been evacuated to the transport ships." "Team Beta is clear as well," Greyvac added. "Awaiting your extraction, Commodore." Shepard looked at Nithatal, who stood paralyzed by indecision as his grand project unraveled around him. "Last chance. Order your forces to help contain the entity, or we'll destroy this entire structure with you in it." For a long moment, the Karvash scientist seemed to struggle internally. Then slowly he activated his command interface. "All scientific caste personnel," he transmitted, his voice strained. "Initiate emergency containment protocols Alpha through Epsilon. The entity must not breach the core. Now order your military to stand down and allow our ships to target the containment field supports," Shepard pressed. Nithatal's compound eyes fixed on Shepard, a complex emotion impossible for a human to interpret flickering across his alien features. "You would risk everything to stop this." "To save everything," Shepard corrected. "Yes." Another moment of hesitation, then Nithatal transmitted again. "All Imperium forces, cease fire against Coalition vessels. Allow them targeting access to primary field support structures." He lowered his transmitter. "The rest is in your hands, human. If you're wrong, if I'm wrong, we die together," Shepard said grimly. "If I'm right, we all get to go home." As the strike team withdrew to their transport vessel, Shepard maintained communications with the Coalition fleet. The thermopyle coordinated a precise attack run against the support structures Nithatal had identified, while the scientific caste worked frantically to reinforce the containment field itself. From the bridge of the transport ship, as it accelerated away from the Ascension Gate, Shepard watched the unprecedented cooperation between species that had been enemies just days before. Human targeting systems guiding Dorkalian energy weapons, Nelvarian shields protecting Karavash, science vessels, a desperate alliance formed in the shadow of extinction. All ships clear of the blast radius, Admiral Joe reported from the Thermopylae, firing seeker initiated. The concentrated firepower of the Coalition fleet struck the identified support structures with surgical precision. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly at first, but with increasing speed, the Ascension Gate began to collapse in on itself, its interlocking rings crumpling like paper as the containment field imploded. A blinding flash of light engulfed the structure, so intense that even the transport's automatically polarized viewports couldn't completely filter it. When it faded, nothing remained of the Ascension Gate, except a spreading field of debris and a strange distortion in space that slowly closed like a healing wound. Entity containment confirmed, Joe reported, the relief evident in her voice. I don't know what you said to them, Commodore, but the Karvash forces are standing down across all sectors. It wasn't me, Shepard replied. It was the evidence. Sometimes the truth is the strongest weapon we have. 3 months later, the Galactic Concord Assembly Hall was filled to capacity as representatives from all member species gathered for an historic session. At the center of the chamber, a human delegation led by President Walker stood alongside a Karvash delegation led by none other than Grand Admiral Vextrol himself. The Imperium acknowledges its violation of Concord principles, Vextrol declared, his translated voice carrying to all corners of the vast hall. The actions of the scientific caste in pursuing the Ascension Gate project endangered not just individual species, but all life in the galaxy. For this, we offer formal apology and reparations to the affected populations. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Never in recorded history had the Karvash apologized for anything. Furthermore, Vextrol continued, the Imperium proposes a restructuring of Concord governance to prevent any single species from accumulating disproportionate influence. We have held power too long. It has corrupted our perspective. President Walker stepped forward. Humanity accepts the Karvash apology and supports the proposed reforms. But we also recognize our own responsibility in these events. Our secrecy regarding our true capabilities contributed to the misunderstandings that led to conflict. She gestured to the assembled representatives. The coalition that formed to confront the Ascension Gate crisis demonstrated something powerful, that our differences can be our greatest strength when we cooperate rather than compete. Different perspectives, different biologies, different technologies, all working in concert to solve problems no single species could address alone. The assembly erupted into a cacophony of approval expressed in dozens of different ways: applause, harmonic resonance, light displays, pheromone releases, and more esoteric forms of communication. From his position at the back of the human delegation, Commodore Shepard watched with cautious optimism. The war was over. The abducted colonists had been returned. The ancient entity remained contained, but he knew that fundamental change rarely came easily or without resistance. Quite the diplomat you've become, Admiral Joe commented, joining him at the observation platform. A far cry from the captain who defied orders to save a few refugee ships. I still would have made the same choice, Shepard replied. Some principles transcend politics, and some choices change history. Joe nodded toward the assembly, where species that had been bitter enemies for centuries now engaged in earnest dialogue. Look at them, working together, listening to each other. Who would have imagined it possible 3 months ago? It won't be easy, Shepard cautioned. Centuries of distrust don't disappear overnight. Of course not, Joe agreed, but it's a beginning. After the formal session concluded, Shepard found himself approached by an unlikely pair, Nithtal of the Karvash and Matriarch Extal of the Dorkalians, ancient enemies now engaged in civil conversation. Commodore Shepard, Nithtal greeted him, mandibles moving in the Karvash equivalent of a respectful nod. The Concord Scientific Council has been formed to study the ancient warnings properly this time. Your xenoarchaeologists have been invited to participate, and the coalition fleet structures are being formalized, Extal added, her crystalline voice resonating pleasantly. Joint training, technology exchange, cooperative defense networks. The Concord is changing, Commodore. Thanks to humanity's example. Not just humanity, Shepard corrected. everyone who stood up when it mattered. Everyone who chose cooperation over conquest. As the unlikely trio moved through the assembly hall, Shepard noticed diplomatic interactions that would have been unthinkable before the crisis. Nelvarians and Solari discussing mutual defense pacts, Paxtril collectives interfacing with Karvosh information networks, Earth scientists collaborating with counterparts from a dozen different worlds. "There's something else you should know," Nithtal said, his voice lowered. "The entity we contained wasn't the only one. Our research suggests there are others, dormant, hidden, but potentially as dangerous. A problem for another day," Extel observed. "A problem for all of us, together," Shepard corrected. Later, on the observation deck of the Thermopylae, Shepard stood alone, watching the myriad ships of the newly formalized coalition fleet as they prepared for their ceremonial departure from Concord space. Human vessels flew alongside alien ships of all descriptions, their formations a physical manifestation of the new cooperation. "Penny for your thoughts, sir?" Executive Officer Reeves asked, joining him at the viewport. "Just thinking about choices," Shepard replied. "When we intercepted those refugee ships 3 months ago, I never imagined where it would lead." "Regrets?" Shepard shook his head. "No, but concerns about what comes next. The ancient entities are still out there. The reforms sound promising, but change is never easy. And humanity has been thrust into a galactic spotlight we're not necessarily prepared for." "Challenges for tomorrow," Reeves suggested. "Today, we've earned a moment to appreciate how far we've come." As if on cue, the fleet began its ceremonial departure. Ships from 17 different species moving in perfect coordination, their engines creating a spectacular light show against the blackness of space. "They thought humans were weak," Reeves mused, watching the display. "Until we showed them what strength really means." "Not domination," Shepard agreed. "Cooperation, adaptation, standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult." He smiled slightly. "Especially when it's difficult." From somewhere in the depths of Concord space, the dormant ancient entities waited. New challenges loomed on the horizon. The restructuring of the Galactic Concord would face resistance from entrenched powers. The path forward would not be easy. But for the first time in millennia, the species of the galaxy faced those challenges not as competitors, but as allies. Not divided by differences, but united through them. And at the center of this transformation stood humanity, not the strongest, not the most advanced, but perhaps the most determined to forge a better future for all. Sometimes that made all the difference.